Boker Tov. Wow, long time no see. Somebody who shall remain nameless just asked me how my Easter was. Uh, so my Pesach was very nice. Thank you very much. It was actually quite inspiring. I've been thinking a lot about relevance realization and what exactly is relevant in my life. The Seder Baruch Hashem, Hagadol v'Hanoira. Several things over Pesach made me wish that I had actually gone through excuse me, with my plans to visit Eretz Israel after 25 years. It's been 25 years since I've been 25 since I've been to Artseinu HaKadoshah. Your mother Rachel is calling. Chezi Tsiaini tells me. So, what I considered streaming about was Daniel Shalom and I have been discussing the possibility of Talmud Chavruta Sanhedrin. We're probably going to start from the very beginning. And he wants to do just Rashi Tosfot, which isn't a bad idea. I was very, very interested. I am very, very interested in possibly doing the Maharsha and Ben Yehoyada, which is the name of the Ben Ish Chai, Rabbeinu Yosef Chaim Mebagdad. His pirush on his commentary on Chezi says not to do Tosafot, just Rashi, just Gemara Rashi, just Gemara Rashi. I got a Kobetz Mefarshim. I wanted to learn it down to. I wanted to go all the way down to Halacha Lema'aseh. Perek Shvi'i, I definitely want to learn with as many Mefarshim as exist. Definitely get into the Ein Mishpat. But I don't know. It's less shayach for a stream. Kesheyafutzu mayonotecha chutza. My dear Yechezkel Shraga. I was at Mashiach Seuda, and we were singing Nigunim. I am some Seder Torah? No. I think I am going to afflict you guys with my voice until somebody decides to join the stream. Did I put the link? I did put the link. Tzama lecha nafshi kama lecha besari Beretzia ve'oyev bli ma. Ay, 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 Kain b'kodesh chaziticha lirot uzcha chodecha. Kain b'kodesh chaziticha lirot uzcha chodecha. Ay, 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 Chezi and Shadow don't like my singing. I don't know about interesting voice. What I have noticed is that I have a accent in music because I grew up with Persian music, and that's so it's different. Apparently, with the half tones and stuff, it's different enough from Western music that it's I seem to have a sort of accent with when I sing or when I dance. Well, you are also Middle Eastern, my dear friend. You might somewhat appreciate that. The best version of that song I've ever heard was Matisyahu sings it. And he does it very well. And how do you dance with an accent? You can dance with an accent, my dear Don. The way I found out about my accent was I was looking at belly dancers on YouTube. I don't suggest it. Very beautiful women dancing. And there was this one belly dancer who is world renowned. Yeah, it's like mixed dancing. Don't you mean quarter tones and 3/4 tones? They're typical of Eastern music. Could be. Anyway, she was really, really good. And like her body was moving to every beat. And I look at the comments, and there was this comment with like 500 likes or even more. I forget how many likes there were. Which was like, either the music is off or she doesn't know how to dance. But either way, people just like this because she's so beautiful. She can't dance at all. And I was like, I understand one person being this stupid, but like this had a lot of likes. I couldn't understand it. And I talked to a friend of mine who's actually a music composer, and he said, I mean, it's similar to how people have an accent when they speak, right? So somebody has an Italian accent. Why do they have an Italian accent? Because when they hear words, they use like particular sounds that they're used to hello, Yechezkel Shraga Halevi.
Hello.
Ben Moshe Halevi.
How are you doing?
Baruch Hashem. How are you? How was Pesach?
Pesach was extremely lovely. I was up north all of Pesach.
Tiberia?
Right above Tiberia. Yeah. Excuse me for one moment. Somebody's rolling in my car.
On the Kinneret?
Not on the Kinneret, but overlooking the Kinneret.
Uh-huh.
But some horseback riding, some hiking with the kids. So really, really a big. I'm very blessed, Baruch Hashem. Katonti mikol hachasadim.
So I was at my sister's, and my dad and my uncle, we were talking, and I mentioned that an Israeli company got sold for $32 billion. Now, you know, my dad was studying in Haifa from 66 to 72, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And during the summers, he would go work at some of the kibbutzim, right? He was talking about and he started talking about how there were boycotts, like trying to destroy the Israeli economy because Israel grew oranges and none of the Arab countries around wanted to import Israeli oranges. So they would actually import Israeli oranges like on the black market and stuff. And I said to my dad, how many oranges do you think $32 billion would buy? It's a whole different type of gross domestic product, you know?
Yeah, people, I mean, when that news came out about that company,
and we lost Fezzi.
When the company announced that it was being sold, everyone was, calling their, cousin or someone that's related to someone in the company, like, how much did the cleaner make? How much did the guard make? Because, like, everyone obviously made it very big. Yeah. I think also the taxes that the government is going to make on that, like, it's so significant that, like, it literally will change. There are going to be some tax raises and things like that. It's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. What is the GDP of Israel?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but I feel like I think they
514 billion. So it's. I mean, it's approaching what? It's more than 5% of.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a very big deal. I mean, it was 32 billion. Sorry, so 32 divided by 514. It's 6% of GDP.
That's serious money. It's funny because when I maybe it was Waze or maybe it was a company before that. Like when the first unicorn, the first $1 billion company in Israel was announced, it was like, oh, this is going to be crazy. But people are saying you're just going to see more and more of this, and in larger numbers and in larger scales. And there's been a few.
Yeah. So the name of the company is Wiz, and they do cloud security apparently. Don't ask me what that means, but like,
well,
yeah,
I mean,
it's much better than trying the agriculture.
I mean, listen, that's not true though. We have some agriculture tech that Saudi Arabia and other countries are interested in.
Yeah,
not oranges.
The tech, but the actual oranges. Like Israel used to export oranges and bananas, you know?
More than that, Israel used to export its grade A, and Israel would eat grade B.
Yeah.
That's pretty nuts. Yeah. I want to know what a grade A orange tastes like.
Well, I think they keep the grade A oranges these days.
Yeah, these days we're okay. So you were sitting with your family, your dad and uncle, on Passover, embodying the story of the Exodus of Egypt, as we are commanded to do. That, and we are must, as we are told, as we read in the Agadah, that each person reading it needs to feel as if he himself was redeemed from Egypt. Right? It's very important to embody that. Some rabbis would even walk around the table with clothes, costumes on, showing as if they're carrying heavy loads. So you're sitting in this moment, and you start hearing the call of Rachel to come back home.
I've always heard the call. That's part of the reason. Did you see the
return again? Return again.
Did you see the picture that I set as the thing for this stream?
He has risen.
He has not risen. There's a Pillsbury Doughboy. He is risen, and then there's the matzah. He is not risen.
That's true. Lechem Ani.
Lechem Ani. Yeah.
My kids and my nieces and nephews on my wife's side, were all at the appropriate age to be very involved this Seder, which is very nice.
Mm-hmm.
So that was always fun. With my oldest, I did it this year. Maybe next year I could do it with my middle child, but my father was very adamant about this, that everyone has to submit a written Dvar Torah, a written Pesach thought. If you're older, you have to submit two for the Seder. And my dad would have it printed out, or if you were writing it down, he'd just have it written out in front of him. And then, like, when that part of the Seder would come, he would give you the paper and then ask you to
give your Dvar Torah?
Give over the Dvar Torah. Yeah. So there was always the week before Pesach. So, like, you could be cleaning, or you could be sitting down and working on your Dvar Torah, researching your Dvar Torah, writing it out. So my
Dvar Torah every year is, how come everybody talks about the 4 cups, but we only drink 2 of the cups?
Why are you saying we only drink 2 of the cups?
Because in my family, we only ever drink 2 of the cups.
Oh, why?
Why do you think?
Feel it's salty, and that's it? You guys are not ready to come back?
No, when's the second cup?
You have the cups they're spread out throughout the Haggadah. Without
They're spread, right, and once you get to Shulchan Aruch,
oh, okay.
we've never gotten to Tzafon Baruch.
My son asked a funny question. My son asked a funny question. He said, "So you open up the door for Elijah, and Elijah comes and drinks from his cup. There's Elijah's cup."
Yeah.
So,
al hagoyim.
right. So, my middle son asked, "How does he get around?"
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "There's a lot of seders." I'm like, "There's a lot of seders." I'm like, "Yes,
there are a lot of seders."
So he asked around. He's like, "What? Like, I'm like, he has he has the chariot." They saw this movie once where, like, you see Elijah, like, going up to the heavens. Yeah. So he's like, "Okay." So he just drives around the chariot, going to all these people. I was like, "Yeah." He said, "But he's drinking all this wine, right?" He's like, "So is he not drunk?" I was like, I was just imagining, like, Elijah getting stopped, pulled over.
In the chariot, yeah.
So that was just cute. But it also made me sad. My son was, my older son asked, when we were davening over Chag, not in the Seder, but it was after the Seder. So it was in context of us singing V'hi She'amda. It's a song you sing about how God is basically, he is always there for us. In every generation, there's an enemy that push us, yet God is always there for us. And in a lot of these modern, you can see, like, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Persians, and it goes, into like terror. So you could see like a lot of different images of people, and so it's illustrated very nicely for the kids. But I lost Jacob.
You didn't lose me. You started droiding.
Usually he's complaining about my connection.
What can I say? Your connection doesn't like it.
What I was going to say is that, I'll wait for Jacob to come back on.
I think it's your connection. I don't think it's my connection.
It is. I'm sorry. So my son, we were davening, we were praying the next day, and we were talking about the Messiah, and he's like, he's not coming. I was like, what do you mean he's not coming? He's like, I'm alive 10 years, and we're saying all the time, and he's not coming. He's like, why is he not coming yet? First, I saw, like, it wasn't like a challenge of, like, I don't believe you. It was a challenge of frustration, which I totally, like, I get and I understand. So it's always tough. And I answered it by saying, like, like, think of your great-grandfather, like, the world he looked at and was looking at today. There's always things that you already take for granted, like, on the way. It's tough.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but Chezi's droiding all over us while he tells us about the disappointment of his son, about the fact that Mashiach has not come yet. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Shadow just saw her own tail and got surprised. It was hilarious. Don says maybe the Israeli government could spend some of that windfall revenue on better internet. I think Chezi drives between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and if I remember correctly, there aren't a lot of people who live between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Here, let's see what Google Jerusalem, Tel Aviv. Here, I will give you guys a little guided tour of driving from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv. Yoav says Israeli internet is privatized, so it's excellent. Well, since they privatize things, it's a lot better than a lot of the services that the so that's Tel Aviv. There's Ramat Gan. For some reason, I'm guessing it's sponsored. Citizen Cafe Tel Aviv really wants me to visit. Trey!
Oh, Jerusalem. I've been there.
You've been there. You have been there.
How you been? I saw Hezi on.
Good. How are you?
I'm
So apparently he's on Route 375. I don't see Route 375.
Well, why are you doxing?
Where is Route 375, Chezi? Eden Hills. Okay, let's see where Eden Hills is. Eden Hills. There's no Eden Hills, Israel. Sorry, Chezi. You don't actually live anywhere. No, you didn't come to Mashiach Suda. You said you were going to come.
No, I didn't say I was going to come.
Then why'd you ask if you should eat first? That wasn't you? It was Jack?
It was Jack.
Hold on, mine. Where was it? Oh, it must have been Jack. Why did I think it was you?
You know, all white guys are the same. Anyways.
Yeah, you, Jack. What's the difference?
I think I've watched a few of your Father Stephen streams, but I still have some questions. So the whole 2 powers in heaven sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
How mainstream was it in Jewish thought?
It was exactly as popular as Baal worship was during the time of Elijah.
So everyone was doing it. Like 90%?
We generally have this idea that about 20% of the Jews, more than the Jews have kept the Sabbath has kept the Jews.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh, you missed my meme.
Trey always misses. Like if Trey were to actually make Mashiach Seudah, Mashiach would come. But
Yep. So when can, like, what are the rules about doing something on the Sabbath?
For a Gentile, you are completely prohibited to ever do any to ever keep the Sabbath.
For a Jew, when could they do something on the Sabbath?
What do you mean? When can they do something? You can't do anything on the Sabbath. You can't do any creative work. There's only one form of creative work.
Let's say somebody's dying.
Drowning. That's different. If like somebody's dying, then you even turn off the light so that they can sleep.
Let's say I have a suspicion that somebody I know is missing. Could I give them a call?
there are all kinds of Mishnayot in Shabbat which ask similar questions about what if a building falls and you don't know if there's anybody caught underneath it. Can you go searching through the rubble?
Is there an answer?
What?
What just happened? Are you all right?
I'm fine. Shadow stepped on something and it scared her.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, is there an answer to that, or is it just one of those back and forth endless debates?
There's a lot of debate. Like any question in the Talmud, there's a lot of debate on.
But the idea that you're supposed to save a life, is the
So the question becomes, how likely is it? Like, do you know that there's somebody? If you know there's somebody underneath the rubble, then yes, you. But if you don't know, then still yes. But if it's not likely, then you shouldn't.
Okay.
You are welcome to learn the. No, actually, no. You're not welcome to learn the Mishnayot of Shabbat, but they're all there.
I can't read that.
It's all there.
Once I read it with my goy eyes, they'll just burn.
Mm-hmm.
Follow-up question. So, do you have any idea what Passover was like in the time of Jesus? Because I watched that video that Yosef linked about the origins of
The Seder?
The Christian Seder, or whatever it's called.
Oh, the Eucharist?
The Eucharist. Yeah, the Eucharist. And he said it was based on Greco-Roman greeting customs, which seems weird for Jesus being a Jew to be involved in that, especially in a very Jewish community.
Right. So the question becomes, do you think the Didache is a Pauline document or a Jamesian document, or like Orthodox Christians like to assert, it's all the same thing?
I think you're putting a lot of emphasis on this Didache when it comes out later, right?
It may be earlier than the writings of Paul.
No, that can't be true. Like, that just can't be true.
There are people who date it earlier than the writings of Paul.
There's no way. There wasn't even a church. What are you talking about?
What do you mean there wasn't a church? Who was Paul persecuting?
Groups of Christians who met in homes, with the idea of there like being
Have you read the Didache?
I haven't read the Didache. Who says when was the Didache written? When was 2nd century? Mid to late 1st century dating, while others count as late as the 3rd or 4th century.
What's the earliest dating of the Didache?
50 to 70 CE, so I guess you are right on that they could be earlier than Paul, but I think Paul's writings were in 52. And the point about it basically is that he doesn't mention that it's the flesh and blood.
Correct.
But
so if you're an Orthodox Christian who thinks that Jesus actually said, "This is my body and this is my blood,"
yeah,
right, then you think, oh, the Didache must be late because it's been a long time. But if you think that, oh no, Paul came along after the Christians, then you could believe that it's earlier than Paul.
I mean, I guess, or like, because the difference in the Didache is that it gives different references, but it doesn't. I think, like, even with any esoteric Christian message, you could still say that both those things are true, right?
The problem with esoteric messages is you can imagine whatever the contents are that you want. I believe the Zohar includes the esoteric teachings of 2,000 years ago. There's no way to prove it.
Unless the Didache was writing against heresy and saying, I, the writer of the Didache, say that basically the belief in it being the blood and body is incorrect.
No, the Didache doesn't do that, but the Didache does seem to be speaking against. It seems to be what is talking against or to what Paul was talking about in 1 Corinthians 9.
Now I'm going into it. The Eucharist.
The Didache is not very long. You should just read it. We've read it on stream several times. And what was Elijah saying about committing something twice to GitHub? What does that mean?
Not committing twice to GitHub. There is, on a private GitHub, I left a API key. It wasn't like we paid for it, but basically, just a key you shouldn't give out. That's all.
Oh, and you did it twice, even though you weren't supposed to do it even once?
Yeah.
We just cook you online constantly, don't we?
Yeah, it goes for a private one anyway, so. Besides, he's kind of crazy with it. Like, he doesn't even send it over Discord. He, like, sends it in a private message, and then it's locked and you have to...
Dawn says less than 5 pages. 16 chapters officially, but I don't think... The chapters are like paragraphs, if I remember correctly. Shadow is purring quite loudly, but you guys can't hear her.
Concerning the Eucharist, give thanks this way. First, concerning the cup, we thank you, God, for the holy vine of David, your servant, which you made known to us through Jesus, to be the glory forever. Next, concerning the broken bread, we thank you, Father, for the life and knowledge you made known to us.
And that's the funny thing. The Jewish way is we do the wine before the bread, but apparently the Christians do the bread before the wine, which is another indication that possibly the Didache is earlier.
Wait. First, concerning the cup, we thank you, God, for the holy vine of David. You go for it. Next, concerning the broken bread. Wine, bread. Are you saying bread,
Correct.
wine?
What? So the way the words of institution are in the Gospels, I believe, is bread then wine.
Well, in the Didache, it's wine then bread.
Right. So that may be an indication that the Didache is more authentically Jewish than the Gospels.
Allow no one to eat or drink of your Eucharist unless they have been baptized in the name of the Lord. But concerning this, the Lord has said, do not give what is to holy dogs. After the Eucharist, when you are full, give thanks this way. We thank you, holy God, to your holy name, in your hearts. Here we go. So, why couldn't it have a double meaning? I mean, if it was just like completely symbolic or something like this, I don't understand why the
idea of ritually eating. So this is one of the first things I ever argued with Christians about. Like, there are Christians will tell me it's just symbolic, as if the merely symbolic is less important than actually doing things. And it's like, that's why you have rituals. The rituals are very important. And to say it's merely symbolic, like, if you're doing something symbolically that you wouldn't do in real life, why would you do it symbolically?
I'm saying that, like, if it's only David's vine, if it's only the Christ Church, it doesn't really make that much sense to him to say that, like, you can not give it to unbaptized people? Because like I
Well,
think like even in Passover with Judaism, like anybody can take the wine and the bread, right?
that's what I have been saying, but the Essenes were also very exclusive. And the Passover itself cannot be eaten by the uncircumcised. I actually think the debate among the early Christians was over who can be a minister of the Eucharist. I think that the only Jews were allowed to actually be priests. And I would point to Acts 7 for that. But I don't think the Gentile church really liked that.
So what do you think Jesus said then?
I think the early Christians, I don't think Jesus himself instituted a new form of Kiddush. I think it was done by his followers afterwards.
Why do you think they would do that?
Same reason why the Zionists, God have mercy on our soul, have all kinds of uh, what Rabbi Soloveitchik called acute halachic mental retardation regarding their holidays, where they institute all kinds of mentally, acutely halachically mentally retarded um, things, including Kiddush, for their Israeli Independence Day.
Can you expand more on that? Because it does feel like a weird tradition, especially something of being such a core memory, right? Like it's an idea of like I feel like there had to be more motivation. It just seems like such a weird practice to do and to say,
It's
right?
not
Like
a weird practice.
yeah,
Like
it is.
having Kiddush in a Jewish home is like every holiday you have Kiddush. And like today, all kinds of Reformed Jews make Kiddush for Thanksgiving.
Um, yes, but eating the flesh and blood as
Right. That
right of
part came
Jews
from
who.
Paul. That part, I think, came from Paul's mystery cults and worshiping Baal.
Okay, so you're basically saying that they took on a practice, being as Jews, that pretty much they knew was made up or wrong, right?
No, they were making a new form of Kiddush. That's not wildly off what Jews do all the time.
Wait. It isn't just another form of Kiddush, right? It is a form of Kiddush that is outright blasphemous, right?
No, the one from the Didache is not blasphemous.
The one of Paul, so the one at least
The one of
28 down.
Paul, yeah. The
So,
question is, which came first, Paul or the Didache?
so we're saying,
We're saying what?
okay, so we should understand that, like, through history, we should say, like, what are embarrassing facts to sort of say and what are unembarrassing facts to sort of say. Is that a wrong assertion to sort of think about?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Like, I think there's some grain of truth to the idea that, like, it's probably true or that, women went to the tomb first. If that's an embarrassing fact because women weren't trusted at that time.
Oh, you're using the doctrine of embarrassment?
Yeah.
I mean, there is an argument from the doctrine of embarrassment that uh, that Jesus actually that's the argument from embarrassment that Jesus must have said it because if Jesus didn't say it, nobody would say it. Unless you believe, like I do, that Paul instituted Christianity and he was an actual idolater involved in mystery cults, and therefore the embarrassment belongs completely to Paul. I don't think Jesus did it. I think Paul did it.
I think Jesus did it
Okay.
because I think he's in a scene, and I don't think making like this is like separate from
The
theology.
Essenes definitely did not do stuff like that.
Yeah, but I'm saying he's not in the Jewish mainstream. He's in his
Okay.
own sort of sect, and I don't think just labeling, trying to say what was the average Jew at that time like, and putting it on to Jesus.
It's not a
Isn't
question of
something-
average Jew. It's a question of what is within the imaginary. Like, what is something that like would be completely norm breaking or not? And because Jesus was apparently very popular, right? If he was the equivalent of the raving, guy on the street corner that nobody listens to,
Well, why don't we listen to the raving person on the side of the street corner?
because what he says is so far out from anything we consider important or reasonable.
Right, because we're modernists, but they weren't in the back in the
No,
day.
not because we're modernists. There are plenty of people who listened, like the Black Hebrew Israelites are not exactly modernists. They have large numbers.
I think that they're more modernists than the crazy person on the street corner, right?
They are the crazy person on the street corner. They just have large numbers of people listening.
I mean, we could get into like the debates on it, but I think all they're saying is that like white people are the devil, which you have to do a really intricate argument to go against, pretty much. But if you're talking about the crazy person on the street corner, they're
Charlie,
saying,
who officially told me he's not listening to the stream,
Charlie, what are you doing here?
Lashawan Kadash, and he's very, very correct about Lashawan Kadash. God have mercy on our souls.
Like the person on the crazy street corner is like saying that there's like
Our latest numbers say that some 10% of the African American community believes in major beliefs of the Black Hebrew Israelites. God have mercy on our souls. They have huge congregations. Charlie clicked that back on because he's bored to death because he lives in a state where there are no people. I did send a crying emoji when he said he's not listening. I don't see why ancient people would pay attention to any random person. I think ancient people often listened to anybody who was educated enough to be able to read and write.
I don't know. They did really listen to an oracle who was just sniffing like fumes, like that. Like
I think being able to read and write was the equivalent of like having a PhD back then.
yeah, and he just could read and write. So even if he was saying some crazy stuff, he's like Dr. Malone or whatever, you know.
We actually don't know if Jesus could read and write. There's nothing that necessarily points to it. I think he probably could, but
I don't think so because he probably would have written something.
maybe. Although he may not have written anything new. He might have just been able to read and write and been a scribe.
Okay.
But if he was a scribe, then he wouldn't have been a carpenter.
So the point about the oracle wasn't a random person at all. I mean, they had a title and a place and a temple were similar. But that's like if I just gave a crazy person and I just put them in the White House or something like that.
Happens all the time. How do you think we ended up with the New York Times?
Yeah.
How do you think we ended up with Dan Rather? God have mercy on our souls. Don Lemon. Oh my God.
Anyways, I just like if you believe you're the Messiah, you're definitely a different type of weird. You know what I mean? Like you're definitely not a normal Jew. You know, you're definitely.
There are a lot of Jews people think are the Messiah. You don't know Jewish history very well. We're pretty big on this.
Wait. There's a lot of people, bro. Wait, if you're a Jew who thinks you are the Messiah, you're a different type of person.
Well, yes and no.
Like,
If lots of people
did the Rebbe ever think he was the Messiah?
People seriously asked him, and he said, "If I knew, I would tell you. I don't know, so I can't tell you."
Boom, boom, easy peasy. Like, if you think you're the Messiah,
Which
you're
is precisely what Jesus said. He's like, "Don't tell people that." He didn't say, "I'm not." He didn't say, "I am."
That was the theme in the gospel of the idea of secret knowledge and pretty much all that stuff, and like making people have to
look. To this day, people do the exact same thing with the Rebbe. They're like, "The Rebbe gave hints," and it's like, no, the Rebbe said he didn't know.
Wait, hold up. There's a difference between like a writing style and then like, right?
Trey, if you had come to Mashiach Suda, I could have introduced you to a guy who was there who would have told you all the ways in which the Rebbe actually did hint that he himself is the Messiah. Even though the Rebbe over and over said, "Stop saying that."
I'm just saying, in one of the Gospels, I forget which one, there is a theme.
Yes, it's the Gospel of Mark with the Messianic secret. I'm very aware of it. And it's very normal for a rabbi that lots of people think is the Messiah to say, "Stop saying that."
Out. It does seem interesting, right? Like that we have a tradition that's so strongly attested, and I guess it all comes down
What,
to
the Rebbe is the Messiah?
no. I mean, I don't know
That
if it's changing my
Shabbatai
mind. I'm just
Tzvi is
trying
the
to see.
Messiah. Do you know how many people we like? This is not a small number. It's not a small number. Bar Kochba, it is not a small number of Jews.
He led a revolt. Oh my!
Acts 5
He's
names
not a
2 more.
normal guy.
There have been at least dozens, if not hundreds, of famous Jewish Messiah candidates.
And they probably all got some screws loose. Like,
no. Well, Shabbatai Tzvi may have had a screw loose, but the other ones were perfectly nice guys.
like, okay, if you look at Jesus and Joseph Smith, right? There were some ideas that were of his own, right? And then there was also some ideas that were taken from different places. Now, I think the difference between Joseph Smith and Jesus is that Joseph Smith started his ministry when he was like 14, so his ideas had to be cemented then. But at least
they were not cemented. If you know the ideas of Joseph Smith, they changed a lot through his very short.
Right. Okay. Yes. I mean, he doesn't have like another 15 years to sort of like come up with anything crazy outside the norm.
All of Joseph Smith's craziest ideas were very late in his life.
Right. That proves my point.
What's your point? I don't get your point.
That I guess one of the points against Joseph Smith is that a lot of his ideas were sort of floating around at the current time.
I mean, everybody is somewhat in the grips of the time that they're in. Like, nobody is completely whatchamacallit. Nobody is completely like outside whatever their thing is at the time.
I guess I'm trying to say, and I'm trying to speculate, is the idea that it doesn't make sense to me that a messianic figure, so a guy who believes himself to be the Messiah, is going to have.
What about a guy who believes he could be the Messiah, but maybe he's not?
And believes that he's on a mission prescribed by God, necessarily is going to have the same theology as everybody else. That would be a little bit strange to me. If you already believe you're a cut above, well, maybe I'm wrong, but that just doesn't make sense to me. Or that seems less
That's
likely.
because you have a very Christian idea of the Messiah, and the idea of some regular person being the Messiah is very strange to you. Whereas in Jewish parlance, the idea that like a rabbi might not actually know if he's the Messiah is not considered strange.
No, because I think that if you're trying to believe you're on a mission divine by God, that you have a bit of an ego about you, so therefore you're like,
No, every Jew
knowledge.
should believe that he's on a mission by God.
That you've been personally selected more than everybody else to have a mission for God.
Everyone is individually selected
Okay, I mean,
for
like, you
having
want
a
me to go
particular
into detail?
mission by
Can I
God.
just have a limb of trust on what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why you're fighting my point so much. Like, David had a different mission.
Because it's a very Christian point where the Messiah is so unique, is born of a virgin, right? You have to be born of a virgin to be the Messiah. It's like that's not how it is in Jewish thought.
Well, you do have to make it so that there isn't any war, right?
You don't have to make it. No, this isn't. We don't have an idea that like the Messiah himself, like ultimately, right? David or Hezekiah or Cyrus or any of the many people all through the Jewish Bible who are anointed, who are chosen by God for a very special mission, are human beings. Like all the other people in the Jewish Bible.
Move on to
It's all Trey's fault, Charlie. I didn't do it. It's all Trey's fault. This is a just chatting stream. We could be talking about anything, but Trey is convinced that Jesus had lost his mind.
So, does the Messiah have to do anything, or could God do everything?
Ultimately, everything we accomplish through God's will.
So,
did Isaiah himself actually do anything, or was it God acting through Isaiah? Did Moses do anything, or was it God acting through Moses? Did David do anything, or like I could name person after person after person after person. The Messiah is just another person.
So but didn't you say the Messiah has to basically make it so that, we're in the Messianic age?
The Messianic age comes, so like I believe if the Messiah were to have come during the Rebbe's lifetime, the Rebbe would have been Messiah. I believe that if the Messiah would be revealed
why would the Rebbe
today,
be the Messiah? That makes
it would
sense.
likely be the Yanuka. But like, it's not him. Like, it's not about the Yanuka. It's about the Messianic era happening.
So why could they, I still don't understand why they could have been Messiah material.
You still don't understand what?
Why they could have been Messiah material.
Why they could have been? Because they were great people. Someone in every generation.
What did the Rebbe do, though?
If you want me to lend you a biography of the Rebbe, I can.
No, but like you told me about him, and I feel like the person who I don't know, created antibiotics is kind of like the GOAT, know what I mean? Like the antibiotics, maybe every like effective altruist is kind of like doing a better thing. Like
The Messiah, I believe, will be a great rabbi.
okay, so it doesn't mean that you're like curing cancer. It just means that like you're writing a
He
novel.
himself, no, but he would be inspiring people to cure cancer.
Why? Why? Where does it say that in the Bible? Or is it just rabbinic tradition?
Look, the what it says in the Bible is during the messianic time, right? When the Messiah comes, knowledge of God will fill the earth as the waters cover the seas, and that no longer will anyone need to tell uh, um, anyone else to know God because everyone from the greatest to the least will know God. Like that's what bringing the Messiah is about there no longer being a necessity for anyone to say to his brother, know God, because everyone from the least to the greatest will know God. Jeremiah 31.
Okay. So because he started Chabad, and Chabad was like a evangelist work, pretty much. Therefore, it was a chance of everyone knowing God.
Look, you know more Torah because of what the Rebbe did.
I don't. That,
You don't?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think people will know more Torah ever because of Jews. On average,
Really?
yeah.
Because no Jew has taught you any Torah.
Well, Christians
Well,
Christians taught me the Torah, and then I had more questions, so I started asking Jews.
okay.
But if you were saying who is the first person to introduce somebody to the Torah, it's gonna be a Christian.
So, like Maimonides says, God created Christianity and Islam so that all of the nations will have some idea about the Torah. Exactly like Maimonides said almost 1,000 years ago.
Right, and I just think that's cope.
Except it's true.
No, just cope.
Okay.
It's like it's like the whole thing about David's prophecy just being written afterwards, or like any of the prophecies. It's just cope.
I have no idea what you mean.
Oh no, Daniel. Wasn't
What?
Daniel? Isn't the book of Daniel believed to be written after the prophecies that they were predicted?
Okay, you think Maimonides wrote this 1,000 years ago?
No, I'm just saying different forms of cope.
What?
Different forms of cope.
Okay. If that's what you believe.
Anyways, I
Anyways,
have work. So
tomorrow in the morning you do.
yes, I did. So I'm gonna go to bed. But it was nice talking to you.
You already are in bed, aren't you?
Yeah, but I gotta go to sleep.
Go to
Anyways,
good night.
good night.
So Charlie, what'd you do for Easter? Did you sing in the choir? Charlie's probably gone. Charlie is winding down for the evening. I should probably do that too. There's a bunch of you watching. Nothing. Dawn is about to be full asleep. Good night, Dawn. Yoav has a Hail Lobster black shirt too. Wow, you like Peterson? For Father's Day, I bought one for myself, for my dad, for my brother-in-law, and for my 3 nephews. And when my mom said that it says "clean your room" on it, she could not stop laughing. She could not stop laughing. For 30 years, she tried to get me to clean my room. Never happened. Never happened. Get better soon, Antonio. Who, Judaism or Zionism, can work without victim narcissism? Or is it a part of all monotheism? I have no idea what you're trying to say. Okay, I'm gonna give it 3 more minutes and then I'm gonna go to bed. Okay. Was the Ark Shem's mother? Is that how he is without ancestry? I have no idea why you would think Shem doesn't have a mother. Okay, but if Shem Melchizedek, that's an evolving totem. Like that, the Book of Hebrews says that, but like I see no reason to believe Melchizedek didn't have parents. Like that's just ridiculous. It's one of the very silly things that the Book of Hebrews says. Okay, there's a bunch of you still watching, but I am going to go to bed. Good night, people. I'm going to use host's prerogative to put the Reverend Parcells to bed because he does need to get up in the morning.
Sorry, Reverend. Thank you.
But before he goes, I have a question. Let's say, God forbid, that I were to burn somebody at the stake for not being a Trinitarian. And I did not repent of that. Is that a salvation issue?
Sometimes Jacob takes that devil's advocate thing too far.
There a proverb that says something like, don't answer a fool according to his folly.
But there's a proverb that says, answer a fool according to his folly.
There is. Exactly right. And I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine, which of those was applicable in this situation as I go. So, but anyhow, good.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good to
Thank
chat
you.
with you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah. The